like to hear from other women who have been through this experience, other women, like where they were at before they started and what they were feeling, because that's what we resonate with as women is, other women. So, let's just chat a little bit, Andrea, about, where you were at and what this process has been like for you. So why don't you tell me like how you felt before entering into working with me? What were you struggling with? What kind of drew you into saying like, hey, I need some help?
Yeah. So I was feeling very kind of defeated and frustrated. I've been in the health and wellness field myself for many years and felt like I was doing all the right things, but just still feeling kind of tired, not really seeing results from workouts, and just feeling like fluffier and, just different than I'd ever felt before. So I realized I just kind of needed somebody to give me some extra support or kind of look at it from a different point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know like when we were getting started, you were kind of curious about your hormones too, and
Yeah.
if those could be at play in what was going on. Was there anything specifically that you were feeling in your body that made you think that maybe there was like a hormonal impact here? Or was it more curiosity for you that you're like, oh, like, it's like this age that maybe there's something happening. Maybe that's the ticket.
I would say it was kind of both. It was the fact that I was like in my mind checking all the boxes of I'm doing the right things, but not seeing results. So I'm like, okay, I am of the age where, probably starting to see some shift and, doing my own research to realize like maybe it is a hormonal thing. And so I've never had those tested. So, I'm a strong believer and you have to know what you have before you can change anything. So, but I'm not an expert in that. So obviously I wanted that assistance too.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. I know so many women are in that same spot as you were, where they're like, I didn't really change, but like something's not working anymore, right? Like I'm doing the same things that I know work for my body, and like what happened because this isn't working, right? So, tell me what kind of shifted during the time that we were working together from like where you were then to like where you are now. What have you noticed? What changes have happened?
I would say, obviously there was the nutrition changes, adding in even more vegetables. I now eat vegetables for breakfast, which I never thought I would do consistently. And people think it's odd, but it's okay. Adding in more protein, like I realized I really wasn't eating enough protein. So it was good to have someone like look at what I was eating and say, you probably need at least, a little bit more there, here and there. So obviously the nutritional changes. But I think the biggest one for me that I'm still working on, but have made progress is the mindset shift. I, in the past has been I enjoy intense workouts. I'm a very overly stressed person by nature. Perfectionist, all those things which come into play can come into a negative, have a negative impact on your health. And so really having someone say, Andrea, that's too much, right? Like you're kind of beating your body from all angles. Having someone else tell me that, it was kind of like in the back of my mind, I was thinking that might be the case, but having someone else tell me that and kind of support me through saying it's okay to slow down. It's okay to not do those high intense workouts and you will still see the progress and changes you want, which I did. And so, having that mindset support has been really important, because like I said, change in nutrition stuff is one thing, but I think the mindset is often the hardest and needs the most support. So that's I think been the biggest change for me. And like I said, I'm still working on it. But I have seen some improvements there, and like pretty big improvements. So
huge improvements, huge improvements in your mindset. Oh my gosh. I mean, it is the piece, honestly, that most women don't know they need until like we're in it. And they're like, oh, wow, like all of these beliefs from like childhood, from other diets that we've done, from, other things that we've read online, from friends and family that we've seen do things. We develop these beliefs around food and weight loss and exercise that are frankly not true. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so it takes us like disproving that in your own body for your mind to start saying like, oh, okay, like we can make it a pivot here into something new. And like you said, you've made immense changes in your mindset, but it is a process. It's some of the work that takes like the most time to stick, and why that coaching component is so important, because we can continue to like actually have the data, just like we're talking about hormone testing, like have the data in what's actually happening to help our mind see the truth. And we have to prove that over and over and over again to kind of pave those new pathways in your mindset. So yeah, that's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that. So many women, I'd go as far as saying all women need some edits in their mindset around food and weight loss. So yeah, great work there. What would you say has been your favorite part of the program and working with us?
I think this might sound funny, but I think I really enjoyed, like, I almost feel like you and Haley are like detectives. Like, you were like the detectives looking at things that I looked at and I was like, it seems good, and then there'd be like these little tiny pivots that ended up making a difference, but they weren't hard, right? They weren't difficult. They're just different. So I really enjoyed that kind of outside detective work. And then also like we called hearing from other women and hearing their experiences was also fun. They were trying different things. I was like, oh, maybe that's something I can consider or something. So I enjoyed that too. So like that weekly coaching and conversation sharing was good.
That's awesome. I know I say all the time, if it didn't sound super cheesy, I would say that I'm a weight loss detective. That's what I love to do, because it's just like everything in life. The sum of the small things adds up to make the biggest difference overall. And if we can find these small things that aren't that hard to shift for you, that creates the most margin for us to still be able to enjoy the things that are really important to us, and keep those things in our diet that make it not a diet or restrictive for us. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. I also think I'm a detective. Cool. So, what would you say, like, if you had to, we've been talking about mindset some, like, how has your perspective on weight loss changed?
I would say the most important shift for me in regards to weight loss is the scale, in the way that, I remember at the beginning you said, it's a tool, and, I had been avoiding it, I think like many women, just because we didn't like what it said. And shifting my mind about what that scale said and using that as information to tell me. So like, I still want to see weight loss, and that's still like, when I don't see it, it's like, okay, but I kind of just take a breath. I kind of almost have like a pep talk about it, that, we're not on a diet. So I think for me, it's just the weight loss part of it is using weight loss as just a data point in my health versus the end point or the only point, if that makes sense. Right. And once again, it's still a mindset shift in progress. But I've been able to see the scale go up and down based on what I'm doing. And that is, for my type of mind, I need that. And so that's been important.
Super good. Super good. To be able to, take this twofold and say like, okay, the scale doesn't control me. I can like make peace with it, get on it, use it as data. And also say like, okay, on the other hand, like I can take the power back from the scale because I feel in control again. I understand why it's going up and down because I've taken a different set of eyes at it. And it's not just emotional, but it becomes like actually like analytical. And we're actually looking for it to guide us into how we can best serve our body.
Yeah. Well, and I think also there's been times throughout this journey that the scale has said, that the scale hasn't changed, or it's maybe even gone up by a pound or whatever, but I've felt the same or better. Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, and then I use that. I'm like, okay, like the scale's telling me this, but I feel this way. And that's more important because it's not like I'm walking around with my weight number on my head, right? Like nobody knows that besides me. So that's been another opportunity for me to reflect on what that number really means. It's not, the number doesn't really mean anything to me. It's how I feel around that number. So I can feel that good, even if the scale is 2 pounds higher than what I think I wanted to tell me, so yeah, I mean, I think that's been another opportunity to do some mindset work too.
That's amazing. That's amazing. It's really kind of working at that core belief that like the number doesn't identify you, and like the number on its own can't identify how you're going to feel in your body at that number, that they're separate. And whenever we can really make peace with those separately and bring it together, that's beautiful. So thanks for sharing that. That's super important. What non-scale victories outside of, mindset growth, we've obviously talked about that, but, what else have you been like learning about your body?
Well, I mean, I learned that I am sensitive to gluten, which is one of those things like you hear about a lot of times, but I'm like, oh, that wasn't me. That's not me. Because it wasn't, I wouldn't say I'm like, I guess you always hear about the people that have like those obvious insensitive, those sensitivities. And I wouldn't say mine was that, but I've noticed that the scale has reflected it, or I feel it in my body. So that's been a big one for me. I think also, like I kind of said, like eating vegetables at breakfast, to me, that's still like a big one, because I think I've always loved vegetables. I've always eaten a lot at lunch and dinner, but really you need to eat some at breakfast if you're going to get, to try and get on all those. And so, that's just made my breakfast a little bit more meaningful, which I think has been important too. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think also I'll add in there for you, like we touched on it a little bit, but like your shift around exercise and associating like needing that hard workout to get to your goals. And that was probably like intimidating, but freeing for you as you worked through that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I'm still working through that. Like there's still, like I came back, I come back from vacation, my mind says, now go do a hard cardio workout and burn calories, but I don't. So it's like, my mind still wants to go there. Right. But then I intentionally shift that. So yeah, that's a big one. And then really trying to do some cycle syncing. That's another one that I've been actively trying to do. And really lean into it that way. So yeah, the workouts for sure has been a big shift too. Kind of forgot about that.
Yeah, no, I always like to bring up those things that, maybe you forget about because it's become part of your new rhythm. Yeah. But, so many women either associate like needing to exercise hard in order to, get the scale where they want it to go or whatever, that like we need to exercise more because that's how we're conditioned to eat less and exercise more. And so many women come in with those beliefs. And sometimes we don't stop and ask ourselves the question of like, is our exercise currently serving our body? And sometimes we love the type of exercise that we're doing, and we need to make a shift in it for a season. And it doesn't mean that we can never do those workouts again, but maybe it's, utilizing a tool like you are cycle syncing and being able to be more intense at certain times in the month when your hormones can handle it a little bit more. And for some people, when we get to a more stable place, they can add more intense exercise back in and do really well with it. But realizing that it's not a one size fits all formula, and each of us are 100% unique in what our body needs right now, and like trusting that your body can give you the answers, if we lean in and ask the question. So yeah,
I mean, I realized I kind of had a conversation in my head around, I loved running, and I love the intensity of it, like pushing myself to those limits. But then the other part of the reason I liked it is I liked being out in nature, and that was kind of my like mental moment, right? And so I was like, but I can still do that, not the push the limit side, but I can still do that with a walk And so, I just, started extending my walks. I used to take a walk every day with my dog. Now those walks are longer, so I can still get that part of it, that I enjoy without the intensity of the running. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. Cool. Well, I also wanted to know, like with the hormone testing for you, how did testing your hormones and learning about hormone balance in general, how has that impacted you?
I will say at first it was kind of intimidating, because I'm like, that just seems like such a big hurdle to overcome. With stress, knowing that that's a big contributor, but sometimes feels like you can't control it or you can't manage it well. So originally it was kind of intimidating, like, okay, I have all this information, but man, it's going to take some big leaps. But I think now it's kind of like, I realize, like you said, it's just like, it's not a diet. It's not going to take, this didn't happen overnight. It's not going to go away overnight. So, doing little things and doing it slowly so that it doesn't seem so overwhelming. But I enjoy having that information, knowing that it's not just in my head. Like there's reasons for why my body's feeling the way it is, or, and there is a way to change it or improve it or whatever. So, so I enjoy doing it. I look forward to doing it again, just to see if there's been improvements there. Cause I think that'll be big to continue my mindset work.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you shared that, like, it kind of felt like a mountain at first to kind of overcome and climb, but just like we teach in this whole process that it's not all or nothing with nutrition, like it's not all or nothing with hormone balance either, right? And that all these small efforts that we take benefit everything in your body, because everything is intertwined. We like to say that all these things are separate, but everything is intertwined. So it's learning that like one little step can make a big difference. And then we can take another step and another step, and it's chunking it down to these bite-sized little changes that we're going to make together.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. The other thing I wanted to come down here and ask is, like, what would you say to somebody who is considering hopping in to something like this, but they're kind of at a place where you were in the beginning, where they're like just confused as to what's going on in their body, like feeling stuck, feeling a little bit defeated and overwhelmed? What would you say to them to encourage them?
I would say do it. Invest in yourself. It is an investment, obviously, but it's for your lifetime. And so there's only one way to change that, and that is to invest in yourself and get the extra help, because although at the end of the day, you're responsible for changing, obviously you guys can only coach so much, the individuals responsible for changing it, but you can't do it alone. It's really hard to do it alone, and you don't have to do it alone. Right. So, I think that's been a big help. And so I would say, do it. You won't regret it. It's going to be challenging at times, but there's always challenges. So you might as well do challenges that will eventually pay off and help you.
Exactly. Like challenges that will benefit the rest of your life. It's not just like this one thing that you're investing in that like lasts for, 12 weeks or like however long you work with us. It's about that these things will affect the rest of your life. And that's where the benefit really comes. But do you feel like the changes that you've made have been sustainable?
Yes, for sure. Yeah. I think, I shared over the last month, my schedule has been very chaotic with a lot of travel, but every time I get home, I return to the home-based behaviors, which to me, that means they're sustainable, because I don't have to worry about falling off the wagon and not getting back on, per se, that cliche saying. It's like, no, I'm just going home and returning to what my lifestyle is. And it's even achievable to do while traveling for some parts of it. So that to me shows that it's not necessarily a diet, because you can take it on the road with you, or, whatever. So yeah, I think it's sustainable. Especially because too, like, I just feel better. And I think, who doesn't want to feel their best, right?
Yeah.
So it's it encourages you to continue doing it, because it's not anything, like, you're not depriving yourself. It's not anything special that you have to do. It's just eating real foods and moving your body and doing some deep breathing or whatever it might be. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. 100%. It's so important to me that women know that coming into something like this, like, I am never going to be the person that promotes losing a quick 10 pounds just to gain it back. But it's about, how can we lose weight while doing the things that are still important to us, while traveling still? How can we literally make this a lifestyle that is based off of, like, not just what Abby says is good, but like, what are your personal preferences? What do you enjoy doing? What does your schedule look like? And we have to make this fit you, not like this idealistic person that doesn't exist, right? That's how we create sustainable change. So thanks for sharing that. Super important to me. We're not here to lose quick weight. Anybody can do that. Not everybody can keep weight off, and it's important to keep weight off for life. So
yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And then, like, my last question to you would just be like, has this been worth it for you? Like, if you could go back in time and do it again, would you do it again?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that, I think it is, like you said, every woman, you think, needs like that extra support or mindset work. But I think we're also the first ones to not invest in ourselves. Like, we invest in our families or other people first. So it was hard. It was hard for me to say, this is important. I do need the extra support for myself, rather than always supporting others. But I would do it again, because it was the shift I needed right now. I needed something that was manageable with a family and jobs and travel, but yet the tools I need to actually feel my best while doing all of that. So for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. That's my ultimate goal always, is that people have an experience that, they feel like was worth it, and that they, don't regret their choice, but they like feel even more confident in the choice that they made by the time that we're done working together. It's been an absolute joy to work with you. You have been, I don't say this to all my clients, so I kind of do, but I only work with amazing women, so I can say it and it be true. But like, you're like my favorite. It's amazing to work with women who are going to show up for themselves and be coachable and say, like, hey, I don't just expect it to happen. I don't feel entitled to it happening, but I'm going to look at the data, the truth, and get feedback and make change and see results. And we create a new positive feedback loop for ourselves. So, I mean, you've just been amazing to work with. And I'm just so grateful that I get to work with amazing women like yourself every day and help them totally change the way that they view food and weight loss and their body. Because we only get one body, and we're going to have it for the rest of our lives. And as women, I think, are so often feeling like, why does our body have to go through some of these things? But if we can flip the script and learn how amazing our bodies are and how they're not so confusing. We just haven't been given the right information all the time of like how to work with our unique bodies. We can feel empowered. And now we can feel like we can take all these different changes as they come our way, because it doesn't feel so foreign. We feel supported, and we understand, and we know that there is hope. It's not just this, like, these hormonal changes are happening to us and there's nothing we can do about it. There's a lot we can do to support our body through these changes.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I appreciate that. It was hard. It's almost like hard to swallow your pride a little bit when you are in health and wellness yourself and you need support. But I always, I tell myself, everybody needs support, right? Like, even if the experts of experts need support. So
100% true. And I say it all the time, and I'll say it again. I have coaches that coach me in my health and wellness, just like in my business and in my life, because we need somebody else's perspective as to what we're doing and what's going on. The way that we see it in ourselves is totally different than the way that somebody else can see it in us and point that out to us so that we can ultimately grow and get where we want to be. So yeah. Thank you again so much for sharing your insights, sharing your life with me. It has truly been a joy. And, so everybody knows, and again, reiterating it to you, I'm only an arm's length away. So know that I am here for you anytime. That is, the beauty of the way that I've set this up is that you have the opportunity to have lifelong support as long as you want it, and you can plug back in anytime. I want to empower everyone, but I also want you to know that you never have to look right or left for like another random thing again. Like you've done the work. This is for you, for your body. And now it's just going to be about like, hey, we're women, our bodies are continuing to change. And as changes come up, leaning back in for the support that you need.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, have a great rest of your day. And thanks so much for sharing with us.
All right. Bye.